Hi guys, this is David, also known as Rays. I am recording this message at 9/27/2019 at about 5:48 p.m. Welcome to another episode of You're Not Alone, a YouTube. Is this a podcast? I'll consider it a podcast. I guess. Podcast, documentary type series, interview kind of bit, where I document my experiences living with depression, how updates of how I'm doing, kind of giving people who are unaware of what depression does, or need someone to kind of relate to in a sense. You know, another look at what happens with people with depression. This series was inspired by Little Kuriboh. He is a YouTuber, a bridger, voice actor who basically I look up to him a lot. He's a very amazing guy. He means well. He tries to be positive, and he just wants to make the world happy, And I think that that's very admirable. But this is how the series was inspired by. Link will be provided in the channels below as well. So I guess the topic for today would have to be I guess what I'm struggling with is moving from your past, not letting the past define you of who you are, not letting these stereotypes and these assumptions being made about your own character and well-being. Of course, my issues kind of don't really delve too much into it, but it does go a lot deeper, to the point where race is involved, or your economic status, your wealth status, or your upbringing and stuff like that. There's a lot of stereotypes, and people categorize a lot of people. If you're born into a very poor household, they automatically assume that you're uneducated, or you have no class manners, you're the worst kind of person. Now that doesn't go for everyone, but it does go for a lot of people. A lot of people do like to stereotype and categorize certain groups of people based on the information that's provided with them, without actually getting to know the individual person. But I think that's something that I've been kind of dealing with for the most part. As I stated in my last video, I suffer from depression. I have anxiety. I suffer a lot from loneliness. Being able to find someone, a significant other, to kind of spend the rest of my life with. And I've been single for about I turned 23 in September, actually, in 2 days, the 29th. And I'm pretty excited about that. I turned 23, but as soon as September runs around, unless something magically happens within the next 2 days or so, I will be single for about 23 years. I've never really experienced a relationship. And that has both its goods and bads, a lot of the time. A lot of goods and bads. The goods being that there's a lot of drama from what I've seen, especially with my group and younger age groups, because we're pretty naive when it comes to love. As we grow up and mature, we start to get a better understanding about what we want, and I think that's the problem with most of the younger generation. People after me, and even my generation, especially with young people, we don't know what we want to get out of life, because we're still in that that exploration age of trying to find a purpose, trying to find what we were meant to do in this world. So a lot of people don't really know what they want. They just kind of get into these relationships, and kind of kind of drift from one person to the other, hoping to find something, but they don't really like look themselves in the mirror and say, you know, what do I actually want? You know, and you know, that's fine. I think that's totally fine, because when you're this age, you shouldn't be able to expect, or you know, put pressure on yourself to like fully grasp what you want out of life. You don't understand the purpose because you don't know the purpose, because as soon as you turn 18, or even sometimes before that, like, you're kind of thrown into the world, you know, to experience everything for what it is, for better or for worse. And I think that, you know, a lot of people, since they don't know what they want to get out of, because they're still trying to experience like a lot of different things, they kind of drift through different people. And I think that's how like a lot of casual dating hookup culture started to arise, is because we don't know what the fuck we want. And so we just think that, you know, like, just drifting from one person to the other, for the most of us, I know some of us, me included, kind of know what we want. But like, for the most of us, like, people are just kind of driven by like, you know, whatever they're feeling on that day. And they won't hesitate to break something off if they're not feeling it, you know? But I think just those relationships and being single kind of affects me a lot. Honestly, I am a lot better, as you can tell. I hope I look a lot better than some of my previous videos. I recently came back from about a 2-year hiatus from making these videos. Partly because, and I explained it earlier, but partly because whenever I kind of make these videos, it helps me a lot. It really does. Whenever I'm feeling bad, okay? And I think I got into this trap, as I think most other content creators do, is that they feel the need to like keep on, like, you know, upholding a schedule, right? They wanna uphold a posting schedule, a content schedule, in which they kind of pump out content on the daily or on the weekly or whatever. And that's what I felt like I was getting to. Initially, the videos really helped me a lot. It really did. I was very bad off when I first started, constantly thinking suicidal thoughts, constantly making plans to kill myself, essentially. I was very emotionally sporadic. I was very paranoid. I don't know. I kind of, in a sense, feel like I turned a lot of people against me. And I think that's apparent now. Just because the people that I turned against are basically not really a big part of my life anymore, as they once were a year or two ago. And I think that's really sad. In a sense, I think that's really sad. I don't know. It feels really bad, and sometimes I don't really think about it because I keep myself busy, which I'll get into later in this video. But I don't know. It's really hard when your friend group divides. It's really hard when, you know, you have these emotional outbreaks and then people just don't want to deal with you anymore. They just think you're a lost cause. They just automatically assume that, like, you know, that you're just like a ticking time bomb, and that there's no hope for you. There's no way to help you. So they don't want to deal with that, so they cut you out of their lives and go do something else. I think that's what happened to me, and I think that, you know, that's basically what I'm kind of dealing with. I like I said before, I was very emotionally sporadic due to a multitude of things. My medicine wasn't really working. I was taking Lexapro. Lexapro was not working for the most part. I think my body either got used to it or it just had no effect on me whatsoever. I got rejected. I opened myself to an emotional state in which I thought that, you know, things would go right. I took the time, and, you know, like, it didn't just happen on the fly, you know, like, oh, I see this girl, there's a girl in my Discord, and, like, I'm gonna take the time to, like, get to know her. It just kind of happened naturally, I think. For, like, the first time in a long time, I developed feelings naturally for someone, just by the way that they acted, how they behaved around me, the communication that we did, how relatable I thought I was with her. And, you know, I took my shot, and because I was emotionally unstable at the time, I ruined that relationship really badly. Which I think I do to a lot of people, to be honest. It always just seems that they kind of, after those bad experiences, like, I feel like I'm being, like, or people in general, like, if you have like one bad day, you're automatically almost defined by that one bad experience that you know, kind of portrayed. Whether it's like, you know, you roar out in anger over something, or you get, like, really super sad and, like, make, like, almost hysterical, and that's what I was. I don't think anything what I did was her fault. I will say that right now. None of what I did was my fault. I own up to that. It's my fault that I let myself, you know, become that way. I should have had better control over my emotions. I should have respected and been okay with, you know, the rejection, and I should have, you know, respected her. And I think I did in the beginning, and then after I got rejected, I completely ignored that and focused on my own desires. But, you know, I am a firm believer that people can change. I really do. I think given the opportunity, and the realization, and something that my therapist says to me almost every time I, like, go to him, which is like once a month, is that it is human nature to get yourself out of a shitty situation. Just think about it. If you are in pain, like if you got, like, you know, like, scraped or something as a kid, like, you don't, like, just, and, like, especially as a kid, you don't acknowledge that scrape and be like, oh, I got scraped, and move on. What's your natural reaction? You cry, because it hurts, you're bleeding, and, you know, like, there's a lot of, like, emotions going through you, but the main emotion is that it's pain and it hurts, so you want to cry. And, you know, that is your way of getting out of a situation. Because, well, that, I guess this isn't, like, a good example, but it is an example nonetheless. Because when you cry, typically a parent or an adult kind of comes to you and kind of evaluates the situation, saying, like, you know, what's wrong, and kind of help you get better, so to speak. You know, you don't just kind of just sit there as a kid and just be like, oh yeah, I got scraped, and then just kind of move on as your knee is potentially gushing blood. No, you cry, you get someone to help you, and then that person does help you, and then it's all better, and then you're out of that shitty situation. You know, you get proper help, and you move forward from that. I know that wasn't a great example, but I think a better example is that, you know, I think, like, if you, going back to pain, if you're in a very bad household, or just a very shitty situation in which that it literally, you deem it possible or necessary that, you know, like, these living conditions or this environment that I'm in is, I can't be here, is doing more harm than good, then, you know, your first kind of, like, thing that goes through your mind is to try to figure out, how do I get out of this? You do your research. I know that doesn't happen to a lot of people, but like, you get the point that I'm saying, is that like, if something bad happens, we make sure that we're out of that bad situation, or we prevent that bad situation from happening. We learn from our experiences and we try to, improve upon that. I think that I am no longer the same person that I was a couple years ago, 2 years ago, when I started making these videos. I've had my ups and downs for sure, but I think I've significantly grown as a person in the span of 2 years. And I think it's apparent by my overall physical appearance, my overall demeanor that I'm like portraying myself as, how like my experiences that I've been telling you guys. I'm going to school, going to a tech school, and I'm kind of doing that stuff and hopefully get a career in computer technology and kind of move on, or move from there. I found a purpose, and I'm getting my life rolling. Back then I think I had no purpose, and I was just kind of clinging on to a false hope of going pro at a video game, which is a very admirable goal. And I don't want to dissuade anyone from, if that's your dream, then by all means try to make that happen. But you got to be realistic about it. And I think I've said this before multiple times, is that whatever dream that you have, one, you got to make sure that you're true to yourself, and that if you want to make that dream happen, you got to do whatever it takes to make it happen. But also at the same time, you gotta be realistic about it. I think going pro is a very good example of expectations and reality. It is viable to get into esports nowadays. It is viable for you to just fall in love playing a game, getting better at it just from playing and looking up strategies and stuff, and eventually it is viable, just like a sport. But at the same time, it's a lot harder. Right now, it's a lot harder. I know for Dota, the MOBA that Dota 2, the MOBA that I wanted to go pro in, it's very hard for new up-and-comers in the scene to kind of get noticed, because the lower tier scene is very dead. Valve is trying to make an effort to build it up so that we have like a competitive scene, because for the past year or two it's been really focused on the tier 1 scene, and to make it to the pro leagues you have to be in the top 1% of like all the players in the world, like matchmaking players. But in order to be like a tier 1 like professional team, you have to be in the top 1% of the pros, which is very hard. So what I'm saying is that it's like you need to be the best of the best of everyone, not just random pub players. I mean, best of the random pub players, best of the professional players, and you need to show that you're the best by winning these bigger tournaments and getting invited to bigger tournaments. And it's just a mess. I don't think that business model is very good for the longevity of the sport or the esport. Because even with sports, you don't focus everything into the NFL and just only promote the NFL players. They have a lot more exposure for some of the younger players, more rookie players, so they call it. You got college football, for example. College football is now being televised all over the world, and now you got schools like Clemson University, Ohio State, App State, UNC Chapel Hill, those kinds of schools that are big name schools being broadcasted, and you see them you see those college students try to pursue their dream of being a professional football player, because that's what they want to do. And sometimes that does happen to a lot of people. They get drafted the next year if they graduate. They get free rides. Like it's more like easier, kind of. Of course, not necessarily not necessarily easier in the fact that like any old schmuck like me who's never played football in his life can just be like, oh, sign me up, I'm a good player. But like, it takes the hobby that you had as a kid or a middle school student or a high school student, and it elevates you to a more serious competitive environment. So it makes that career path a more viable option than just going to school and getting a degree and working at an office job, for example. Which some people, you know, it's very boring to do. Some people just want a little bit more. They want to experience, like, you know, like traveling around the world, especially, or around the country, and playing, like being adored by millions or whatever, and making money, of course. But I think for dreams, you gotta give it your all. You can't just say like, I want to do this and not put any effort into it. That's what I did. And I realized that I realized going in that being a professional at anything takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of discipline, takes a lot of training, takes a lot of practice, takes a lot of having a good mental attitude, a good mentality in general. And I think that's where it all stems from, is having a good mentality, a learning mentality. And I think that's what really marked that career path unviable, or not really existent for me, because my mental state was not in the right area. And you know, I don't regret taking a couple years off school, because I went to UNCC back in 2015, and I went for about 2.5 years there for electrical engineering. And I don't regret taking time off from school and kind of doing my own thing, work, playing games, trying to go pro. Like, all those experiences, I don't regret any experience that I've done, I don't think. I think if you regret what you did in the past, then that doesn't really help you move forward. I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. Not saying that, you know, like there's some higher entity or whatever, but like everything that you do, like, happens for a reason. I think you do it because at the time you thought it was right, but you know, maybe it turned out not to be right. Which is generally the case most of the time. Life is an experience, and you have to basically take your past experiences to shape your future experiences. Everything has a correlation to each other, so you learn from that. That's how you adapt as a species. You see something happen to this guy, like, for example, some guy riding a motorcycle is not wearing a helmet and he gets into a wreck. Like, you see that, like, you know that kind of thing, that like, hey, like, you know, maybe if I ever decide to ride a motorcycle, I'll wear a helmet. You know, safety stuff, make sure that I'm staying safe. Or maybe I won't be, you know, a jackass driver who's just, you know, being super aggressive and trying to pass people and speed, and try to do tricks in the middle of the road at like 60 miles per hour, and, you know, drive defensively so that I don't get into a wreck. I was very oddly specific. I'm not like pointing that to anyone that I know, but I've seen it happen in South Carolina because driving there is very bad. Everyone's an asshole. But the point is that, like, in order for you to progress as a human being and as an individual, you gotta let go of your regrets of the past. And I think, you know, me being in that state of, I don't regret what I did at all. Nor should I regret what I did. I did those things because I was in a bad time. I was experiencing some bad stuff. I was not in the right mental state. And I don't want to excuse my actions as like, oh yeah, everything's fine because I didn't hurt anyone. I realized that I hurt people, and I realized I made things uncomfortable. I realized I probably stressed a lot of my online friends the fuck out. And so their response to being unstressed because, you know, depression is very common within my age group and younger, and even all over the world is so common. Um, everyone has their own shit to deal with, and me being the dumbass that I was and kind of making my problems everyone else's problems, like the only natural response in my mind is, the only logical thing I can think of is just that you cut that out of your life. If something's giving you trouble, then you do your best to avoid that trouble and you cut yourself out of that shitty situation, as we went back to before. It's human nature to kind of not be in that shitty predicament. But I think you shouldn't let that define who you are. And I think that's the main point I want to try to get to, is that I don't regret any of my actions. I don't endorse what I did was correct, but I don't regret doing that because, one, it was probably going to bound to happen eventually, and I'm glad that it happened then rather than like later in the future where I had even more responsibilities, such as, like a family. Like imagine if like one of your family members, like your dad or your mom, just had that outbreak and started pushing the ones that she held dear, like her parents, her other family members, her main family, her children, husband, whatever, like push that all away. That would hurt for all parties. I would rather this happen now when I had like really no big obligations or as much obligations, because I'm still single. I don't have a kid. I don't have a wife. I have my mom and I have my main family and my other family members, but like that's about it. I have my online friends too, but I feel like I'm being like defined as this like emotionally unstable person. Being categorized as one of those people. And I think I don't want to, it's not a bad thing. I don't want to be like sound bitter and sound like I'm a lot better, because I am better, but I'm not like fully cured. If I was fully cured, then I would let you guys know that I'm fully cured, but I believe people can change. I believe that if they're given the opportunity to change, to make their situation better, by laws of human nature, they will make themselves better. I think I reached my new low at that time by making people uncomfortable, making people worry. Like it got so bad that like my online friends from like different countries started like invited me to these private Discord chats, and say like, hey, like we're really scared and we've contacted people that and are in the United States and can do something. Like we had like the suicide hotline number or whatever like up and ready, so that if you do decide to do something, we'll call it and it'll get stopped. Like how shitty is that for me to like make those guys worry from different countries? I'm not talking about like in the United States. I'm talking about like in Southeast Asia, Europe. One of my friends is a Bulgarian, and he's the one who told me that. He told me that he contacted the girl that I had a crush on, because we were still somewhat friends at the time, or somewhat in contact with each other. And since she lived on the East Coast, just like me, mainly up north and from when I am, but like, like she had more power or more control over preventing what I was maybe thinking of doing to myself. She was the only one that could do anything about it. My other friends like are either on the West Coast, so time difference, they're in other countries, so that they don't know like the number, or they can't really call a US number to kind of prevent that. So she was the only one. And I realize now that I was a very difficult person to deal with. And like, I don't blame myself, really. I think it's natural that kind of happened to me. It's natural when a lot of shit just keeps piling up. Um, family matters were a very, very low, very bad. My job was getting me nowhere at the time, and I was getting taken advantage of constantly, day in and day out. And when I couldn't, like, make time out of my schedule to, like, appeal to their schedule, for example, me being called in to being asked to work when I don't want to work because I wasn't scheduled, and then they getting all messy and threatening to write reports, to get me fired if I don't show up, kind of deal. It gets it impacts you a lot. It impacts you a lot, and eventually you just snap, because we're not machines. And the fact that, like, we can just be emotionless and just kind of not care or feel indifferent about the things that are happening. We're human beings. We have emotions, and we have stresses, and eventually the human body and the human mind can only take so much before it eventually breaks. And unfortunately, it broke back then. I feel like I did more harm than good. And I feel that I don't think there's anything that can change their mind about it, to be honest. I tried reaching out to some of them. I tried, like, asking, like, what's up with them? How are they doing? Sometimes I get responses, but they'd be, like, really short responses, as if, like, they're just trying to be nice to kind of catch up for, like, a little bit. I guess I just don't want to make things worse by trying to intrude on them, per se. I don't want to, like, force myself into their lives when they realize that I was a problem and say, hey, I'm better. And then, it might work out like then, but what happens if I have another, accident? What happens if I have another emotional outbreak? Then what? Then I fucked up twice, and there's really no going back from that. But I think being like, I don't know for sure. And, I shouldn't be thinking that this way, because, and you shouldn't be thinking this way either, I don't think. My therapist always told me that, like, how do you know what other people are thinking when you're not them? And it really opened my perspective about, like, why I was kind of, like, being, like, paranoid and anxious towards what everyone else was thinking, because in the end, you don't know what they're thinking unless they specifically, like, say it to you or announce it, how they're feeling. You don't know how anyone's feeling. I don't know how you guys are feeling. I don't know how my parents are feeling. Hell, I don't even know how my dogs are feeling. Like, unless they show signs or specifically tell me that, like, I'm a problem, then you shouldn't just assume that you're the problem. I think that they would say so. And I think that holds merit to my situation a little bit both ways. One, they didn't really specifically tell me that, like, hey, like, I think I need to distance myself from you because, like, you're doing more harm than good to me, and like, you're really stressing me out. So I need to have some space away from you. They never said anything like that. They kind of exhibit the way that I'm currently, like, thinking about their opinion on me, is that how they show it, how they express it. They stopped talking to me. Some people, because I run a stream and a Discord, a community. Some people left that community and didn't look back. Never told me anything. They just kind of unfollowed me, left my server, removed me as friends on gaming sites like Steam or whatever. They legitimately wanted me out of their life. And I think that really hurts a lot, especially when I remember all the good times that we had, joking around, playing games, making memes. It hurts. It hurts a lot. And I don't think that'll ever get better, and that's something that I'm currently struggling with, is moving past that. I say a lot of shit, you know. I am so bad at practicing what I preach. I give advice to a lot of people about, like, you know, what my thoughts and opinions are, but I don't really act on those. You know, I feel like a fraud at times, because, like, I say, like, don't give a damn what other people think and just kind of do your thing, but here I am giving a damn what other people think and not moving past that. I feel like I'm a faker, and it hurts a lot. It does, when you notice the hypocrisy of how you act. I notice that all the time with myself. The hypocrisy. I take things a little bit too literally at times. Especially treating others the way that you want to be treated. I have a hard time telling people no still. Especially when it comes to advice. I have some people, like, message me all the time, and, you know, I try to respond. Sometimes I don't. And it literally reminds me of what I did to my friends, and that, you know, like, I put them in that situation. I give advice, I show, like, you know, that I want to help, and so we talk a little bit and things seem to be clear, and then, you know, a couple days later they're in a bad spot again, and it's just this endless cycle. You know, and I feel really, like, bad about, like, not responding at times, or kind of just, like, I guess not, like, I care. Don't get me wrong, it's not like I don't care, but at the same time, like, I don't want to, like, make this a priority in my life, because I got shit that I want to do, that I gotta deal with, you know? I can't be that selfless in the fact that I just drop everything of what I'm doing and just focus on my effort and time helping others. How can you help others when you can't even help yourself? I think, you know, it's toxic. It's a form of toxicity, even if they don't mean to be toxic. You know, like, and I realized, you know, after, you know, conversing with these people online, that I was exactly doing the same thing to them. It made me realize that, you know, I was in the wrong, because before I thought that, like, you know, I was in the right and they're just shitty people and they don't care about me, but I think they did to an extent, but it got too overbearing for them, and at the end of the day, they did something about it. They prioritized themselves, and I think that's what I want to say to you guys, is to prioritize yourself. You know, if something or someone is impeding your progress, then you got to do whatever it takes to cut the source. Cut it. Cut that kind of toxicity, negativity, that's impacting your life in that way. You gotta either deal with it. I think it could have been handled a lot better. I think, instead of just, you know, people just leaving, not saying anything, especially after, like, it's one thing if it's just, like, you know, a random person from my community that I don't really talk to, or it's not really active, just kind of leaves. It's kind of whatever, because I don't really have that much of an emotional connection with them, because I didn't get to know them as a person. But the people that I was involved with in the past, and they just up and left without telling me anything, that to me is just really not cool. I think communication is very important in this day and age. Something that we forgot how to do. You know, if people take it the wrong way, which is another thing that my therapist said, that, like, they chose to feel that way, you know? You know, I admit that sometimes, you know, you can't necessarily help it. But at the end of the day, you know, like, I'm not, like, you know, like I said, I'm not like kind of valuing that kind of that thinking of, like, you kind of am programmed to think this in this certain way, to program, being kind of like, in a sense, forced to make those bad decisions, because, you know, the brain is very complex, and I don't think we know really everything about the brain, or like as we know right now. I'm pretty sure like in a couple of years, like 5-10 years, we'll learn something else about like the brain thanks to new studies or whatever. But he looked at it at this way, in that I shouldn't feel bad about them acting a certain way, or I shouldn't feel guilty for making them behave a certain way, because in a way they chose, you know, to feel that certain way. So if they chose to, you know, like, you tell someone bad news and they chose to, like, you know, be like all defensive and like, you know, like, well, you're the problem, like, you know, and like retort and stuff like that, then there's nothing you can do. You know, you can't make them change their minds, and you can't make other people change their minds. Really, you can't like force them to be like, hey, like, don't think this way. They kind of, you know, in a way they kind of like chose to react that way. But I think honest communication is very important. I think that if you are wanting to tell someone that, hey, like, I can't hang out with you, you should just do it. Don't just it's awkward and it sucks a lot, but like, it just makes things better in the long run, you know? And once you tell them that, you know, like, hey, like, I don't want to converse with you right now, I need space from you. If you feel like you're being suffocated in something, then like, you shouldn't feel guilty about how they will react. You shouldn't feel like guilty in the fact that like, oh, like, this guy's like making these very like bad remarks, or sad remarks, or, you know, whatever. You shouldn't feel guilty about that. Something that I'm currently having a hard time dealing with. I sometimes can tell people that like, hey, like, you need to do this, this, and this, and not come to me all the time. Which I think that's also kind of fair for a human. You shouldn't dump all your problems onto your friend group or an individual, unless they're like, you know, trained and they have a passion for it, like a therapist or doctor or whatever. You shouldn't just dump it onto like one random person. You need, if you want to improve yourself, you really gotta like look at what you did and reflect on that. Kind of analyze and evaluate like if you did something wrong. And you gotta take those experiences and kind of just make a mental note that's saying, hey, like, I'm not gonna do that way. I'm not gonna, like, you know, do that thing. That's what I did. I took that mental, emotional vulnerability and little mental outbursts that I did, and I said, hey, like, I realized I did more harm than good after experiencing something sort of similar to what I did to them, and I realized I didn't like it. And so I'll do my best to not make people feel that way. You know, I will do my very best to not put that pressure on them. I think I've grown in that regard, as a person in that regard. I just wish that, you know, if they're watching, I don't know if they are, they probably aren't, but like, if they ever do, like, watch, listen, or whatever, if they could give me another chance, because I think I am in a better state. I am acknowledging that I had a problem which I didn't have in the past. I thought I was better. I acknowledged my faults, and I'm trying to improve on my faults. It's just something that really eats away at you at times, especially when like you want to be involved with like different communities. Like, I made it a goal to like kind of stop by some of my people that I followed, some small time streamers, and kind of just not like force my way into their like community, but kind of just be there, you know, kind of just like ease my way in. And I think that with certain people it's going to be a lot harder, because, you know, my Bulgarian friend that direct messaged me, saying that I'm doing these kinds of things to, you know, my friend group at the time. Um, you know, I'm trying to get back into his community a little bit. He's trying to get back into mine. We've had a couple talks in the couple months ago before I restarted this series again. You know, like kind of explaining like what's been going on and all that stuff. And of course he has his own stuff that he wants to do. So I just get this hollow feeling at times where it just feels like, you know, they moved on and I'm kind of moving on, but at the same time, I'm kind of regressing a little bit, which I don't want to happen. I think it's perfectly natural, especially when you don't have anything to do. It's always when when I'm on vacation. Like I only go to school 2 times a week. You know, I took this weekend off of my work because, you know, my birthday is on the 29th. And this week, and then the week of the 26th of August is when school started. I took a week off school with that. It always happens around that time. It's really, it's not coincidental. Like I think it's a sign that like if I'm not busy, like if I'm not like working or doing something to like distract myself, whether school, work, streaming, whatever. Because normally, like, I don't stream Thursdays and Fridays because normally I use that time to, like, you know, kind of work, do my homework and stuff. But there hasn't really been that many assignments because I've done them. I was proactive and I did them earlier this week, and I don't have work today. So, like, this down period for 2 days is really getting to me. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not giving. I don't know. I just want to make things right, but at the same time, I can't. Like I, you know, said earlier, I can't. I realize that I can't really make them acknowledge that I'm better, and I shouldn't worry about it. But it's always her. It's weird because every other girl that I've ever like asked to go out with, like eventually, you know, I got over it within like a month, but like I thought I was over it now, and then whenever I just see her name, her in-game name, and I see that, like, you know, I went to my Bulgarian friend's Discord just to see what was going on, and I saw her. She's in my Discord too, but I think she doesn't talk. I think she has it muted. But she rejoined my Bulgarian friend's Discord, and, you know, he made her a mod, and I think they're a lot better now in terms of their relationship, but it just sucks just seeing her interact with them and then wanting to interact, but also kind of reluctant to. There's a potential that I might make things work. Even if I just said hi, like there might be a chance of being like, oh, David is in this server and he's trying to talk to me, like, bye, and then just all of a sudden I make things awkward and I ruin everything. I don't know what to do, honestly. I see my therapist like in a couple of weeks, so I'll tell him about it. But yeah, it's just being able to move from your past, not being focused on what other people think of you. Some things are easier to deal with others. Some experiences are easy to move past from, and some people, you know, you are much easier to like not care what they think about you than others. But I think I actually don't know what to do. In the grand scheme of things, I really don't know what I want to do with her, about her. I've tried a couple times to ask how she was doing, and I always get those like, you know, oh, I'm not doing so well, like short responses, like she just wants to answer the question and not have any room for conversation. And I don't know what to do. Maybe I should just kind of remove her from my life, just like she removed me from hers, and not try to get involved with that. I'm not sure, but I really don't want to do that to people, because I think I appreciate everyone who was a part of my life at some point or another, if they were good or bad, because in the end, they helped me become the person that I am today. Some people are a lot more favorable than others. You know, the good outweighs the bad in my case, but I don't know. It's just, I don't know what I should do, but I've been doing good for the most part. I've been doing good. I've been wanting to make another podcast, actually, like a legit podcast. We talk about anime, gaming, stuff like that. But yeah, just, I'm not fully cured, you know. And if you're in this journey or starting this journey, just realize the reality of it is, from my perspective, is that I don't think it ever goes away. And that may suck and sound like really scary, which it is if you think about it too much. I don't think, you know, I've met a person who has been like over like a decade say like, oh, I'm fucking cured, I'm no longer sad, like I am fine, like I am this like ideal, I have this ideal mentality of like, you know, focusing on myself and not letting things get to me. It's easier said than done. But it will always stay with you. From my experience, it always stays with you. Depression never goes away, unfortunately. It always sticks. But, you know, how you deal with it, and how, and what, like, realizing, like, you know, what you like to do, and, you know, trying to surround yourself with people who care about you, that actually care about you. Trying to find hobbies that help you take your mind off what you're thinking. That helps a lot. And sometimes you don't even realize that you had depression in the first place. Sometimes, you know, like, you feel like it's gone. That's how I felt like with my medicine at times. I felt like I was super cured and that was it. I didn't need to take it anymore. And so I stopped, and then I fell back down, took it again, and then it got to the point where I did it so many times that like it had no effect on me anymore. So I had to switch to a new medication. I guess I can talk about the new medication. I'm actually taking amphetamine. Amphetamine salts is what it's called. 10 milligram tablets. It's basically Adderall. I have ADD. It's very apparent in my early education, where I would get really distracted at times, and I would let my mind wander, not necessarily thinking about bad stuff, but like thinking about stuff that didn't really matter in the reality of what I was doing. Like thinking about, you know, that one anime episode, or thinking about, you know, what kind of games coming out, or how the gameplay is going to be, or thinking about like fandoms and, you know, like the lore behind certain fandoms. I got really distracted, and I think that really impacted my productivity, and I made, you know, I had this very like struggling demeanor when it came to school. I took an ADD test, and I don't have high levels of ADD or ADHD in that case. I have moderate levels of it. I took like a standardized test at my doctor's office, and I was diagnosed with ADD, but not high, like not to the point where I need to take it every day like some people do. I have to take it whenever I want to get something done. So if I'm going to school, I take it when I go to school. I take it when I go to work. I take it when I want to study and do homework. Anything that like I realize that I need to get some stuff done, I will take it. And the results are amazing, you know. I wouldn't say it made me really happy, but it cured my depression, but it definitely makes a difference in your mood. Cause you know, I think I don't know, I don't think it's a depressant. I don't know if it's a stimulant or not. I don't know. I think it is a stimulant. So like it stimulates your, what that means is that like it stimulates your brain, so that you kind of do more. My early experiences with it, because I was prescribed 10 milligram tablets. I take one tablet twice a day, in the morning and in the afternoon. According to the doctors, each tablet lasts around 4 hours. I did that. So essentially I was taking I was taking 20 milligrams a day, and I realized that was too much, because I got inside this mood where I like physically had to do something. It made me a lot more focused, but it made me a lot more hyper, to the point where I was very chit chatty, and at the end I was distracting. After some modifications, even one tablet is a bit too much for me. It might be okay for me now. It also messed up my sleep schedule. Because like if you take it beyond like a certain point, I was told not to take my medicine past 2 p.m. If you woke up or like you forgot to take it, and it's like past 2 p.m., don't take it. It'll keep you up at night. And the sleep medicine just kind of makes it all wonky. But I take half a tablet a day, once a day. So I take 5 milligrams a day, and it was the right balance for me, because I'm focused, but I'm not hyper. I get shit done. I took it like in the past, like a couple, like before school started. I think I've gotten used to that dosage now, so I might have to upgrade it to a full tablet a day. Because I did get really distracted today. I took it because I needed to do some studying a little bit, and I was looking up a bunch of YouTube videos on the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. Gogeta's so amazing. But anyways, I think I might need to update that a bit and maybe take a full pill, but I'll probably talk to my therapist about it before I do anything. And you should always talk to your doctor or therapist or whoever prescribed it, just so that you don't mess up, because medicine is very scary and it can do a lot of bad things to you. So you want to make sure that a professional, or a professional can evaluate what you're going through and can recommend what you do or tell you what to do. But Adderall, amphetamine, like it's very helpful. Productivity is very high. I feel a lot more motivated to do stuff and get shit done. I'm distracting myself. Like my brain is like in a way now that like I kind of need to like distract myself a bit. And I'm making very good grades so far, and I actually kind of care about school now, which is kind of surprising, because that before I get like these C's or D's, and I'm just like I'll do it on the next test. And then, those tests add up, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm in this situation where I need to get an A in order to pass the class, and then stress myself out even more. But now I'm actually, like, balancing stuff out with school, work, and my hobbies. And I'm slowly finding that work-life balance. And, it's very helpful. Like I said before, if you take too much of it, it will make you very hyper and very chatty. Sometimes it can even make your heart beat super fast, which happened to me once. But in the end, I think if you think that you do have ADD, and I think it happens to a lot of people, get yourself tested out. Like, just go to, like, if you go to a therapist or something, ask for like an ADD test or an ADHD test, because chances are you might have it. And if you get prescribed the medicine, and I'm not saying that this medicine instantly cured all my problems, because I still have problems, as you can tell from like the first hour of this video, but it does help a lot. And I think you start feeling a lot better about yourself, because I think like one of the main reasons why you feel really shitty about yourself, or you hold yourself in such low esteem, is that because like you don't feel the urge to do something, so you feel like you're a waste of space. I know I felt that way. And I feel like with the Adderall and how like it increased my productivity, and it made me like not smarter, but it made me a lot more active in studying, and I felt like I was actually getting stuff done. it made me feel better about myself. It made me realize that like, hey, like I'm getting stuff done. Like I'm doing stuff, you know? Even simple tasks like, you know, like waking up and making my bed or making breakfast for myself or, you know, like like grooming myself and all that. Like it made me feel like a whole lot better about like, hey, like I'm not a piece of shit. I have so much to prove in this world now. You just need a boost. And there's no shame in getting help, getting medicine. That's what it's there for. It's to help you. You shouldn't feel like, you know, like, oh, like these guys don't have to take this, or these guys don't have to go to these people to, you know, do stuff. So I feel like I'm the odd man out. You shouldn't feel that way, because in the end, I believe like a majority of like adults nowadays and even kids like are going through depression. It's like very common, unfortunately. So you shouldn't really feel bad about being an odd man out, really. If it takes you like a couple pills to like help you function, there's no shame in that. It's there for a reason. And you shouldn't get inside that mentality of like feeling bad. I think medicine is a great thing, but at the same time, you got to be very realistic with it and not abuse that power, aka like not give out your medicine for for money to people who may or may not need it. You shouldn't you should be smart about it, take the recommended dosage and not take any more than needed. And you should also have that reality expectation of, you know, it's not gonna cure all your problems. If medicine cured everyone's problems, then we wouldn't have any problems. We just inject ourselves with this shot that would cure all of our problems, and all of our problems would be cured. Unfortunately, life doesn't work that way. Life sucks. It's really shitty, to be honest. You have a lot of shit going on, ranging from like the fucking politics of this nation to, you know, wars going around to like, you know, just minor inconveniences to social inconveniences, and there's a lot of shit that reality does throw at you. Medicine helps you deal with that better. It helps you not get inside, and it helps you not to focus on all that, and it helps you kind of rearrange your priorities in a way that like you deal with it better. You can try your best to prevent certain things from happening, but you know, life is life, and that it'll always throw a curveball. And the fact that, you know, if you prevent one thing from happening, then you're not preventing another thing from happening. You can't prevent them all. You know, it's bound to happen, but going from our past experiences that we talked about, you learn what to do. You learn how to deal with it. So yeah, I think talking about this really helped me. You know, practice what you preach. I'm a firm believer of that. And sometimes I feel like I'm a fake or a fraud from not practicing what I preach, but I think making these videos has made me realize that I was in the wrong mentality of what I was going through, which is natural to happen. You know, you're alone by yourself, or you don't really have that much to distract you. So I think it's natural for you to, you know, for your mind to play tricks on you and kind of slowly alter the way that you think. But talking about your problems helps a lot. But I think this video made me realize that I was falling off course a little bit, but I have the means to stay back on course. I think that'll do it for this time. I know that, you know, I appreciate all you guys commenting. I'll do my best to comment, to respond to any questions or, you know, anything that you have to say, as long as it's positive, of course. I appreciate the support that you guys have been giving me. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope that, you know, like a common person like me, some random that like you don't even know, kind of helps you, make you feel less lonely and less like isolated from the world or from society in general. I hope that like me being the common man can help you realize that like it affects more than meets the eye, so to speak. But yeah, I think that'll do it for this video. Like I stated earlier, these videos are not going to be on a week-to-week basis. It's just going to be whenever I want, to be honest. But yeah, I hope you guys, if you watch this entire video, I know it's like an hour long, but if you watch from like start to finish or just key points, I really appreciate it. If not, then that's fine too. It doesn't matter to me. But as long as like as long as you like find this like talk or advice like a little bit helpful or puts into perspective a little bit, even if it might not change your mind on certain things or whatever, like as long as you like are more knowledgeable about it and see that like and slowly become a little bit more understanding about it. You don't necessarily have to agree with it, but like understand. I think that means a lot to me. As always, thank you very much. Please go check out Little Kuriboh because he is the one that inspired this series. And I will see you the next time. We have Twitch, Twitter. We have another podcast coming up, which I'll probably make a little video about that a little bit later once I finalize everything. But yeah, guys, I hope you have a good one. I really do. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day, and you know, you're not alone. You don't have to deal with your problems by yourself. It's okay to get help, and it's okay to be yourself. You know, it's okay to be who you are. You don't have to change to appeal to anyone. There are 7 billion people in the world, and it doesn't matter really if you cut a couple of people out of your life, because eventually you'll meet some people who actually care about you or impact you positively, or someone that you really like hanging out with. I'm not saying that like these people are replaceable per se, but you know, like you don't have to be in this mentality of like, these are the people that I know, these are the people that I want to stick with. The world's a lot bigger place than what we make of it. So you just gotta take that first step to kind of see what the world's all about. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time till we meet again. Bye guys.